Okay, so today I'm interviewing Dan Harris, who is the best-selling author of 10% Happier, which Yellow Kite published in June 2014. And I'm interviewing Dan as part of the Yellow Kite Online Festival. I'm Liz, I'm the publisher of the Yellow Kite list here in the UK. So hi, Dan.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us for the online festival. And first of all, I want to ask you a little bit about the event that started everything for you in terms of your meditation journey. How did it happen?
I was, well, I mean, the short answer is I had a panic attack on national television. I was anchoring, or as you would say in the UK, presenting the news on a morning show we have here called Good Morning America. A very popular show with an audience of around 5 million people, and this was back in 2004. And I'd done this job many times before, but I had no reason to foresee what was about to happen, which was I was overtaken a few seconds into my shtick, where I was reading a few stories off of a teleprompter, reading a news update. I was overtaken by a huge bolt of fear, and I couldn't. My heart was racing, my palms were sweating, my mouth dried up, my lungs seized up, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't talk, and I had to quit right in the middle. Suffice it to say, it was pretty embarrassing. And then afterwards, I went to a doctor, an expert in panic, and he asked me a bunch of questions to try to get to the bottom of what happened. And one of his questions was, do you do drugs? And I kind of sheepishly said, yeah, I do. And he leaned back in his chair and gave me a look that said, okay, idiot, mystery solved. And so there's a little bit of a backstory to this, which is that as a young, eager cub reporter, I had gone overseas to cover war zones after 9/11. So I've been in Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan and Israel and the West Bank and Gaza. And when I got home from a particularly long stretch in Iraq in 2003, I got depressed and very stupidly self-medicated with recreational drugs, including cocaine and ecstasy. And the doctor explained that that drug use, while it was reasonably limited, was enough to raise the overall level of adrenaline in my brain and prime me to have that panic attack. And so in that moment, I knew I needed to make some changes in my life, and that was kind of the beginning of a long, weird, windy road that ultimately led me to meditation, which, as you know, was something that I always thought was ridiculous.
So you were skeptical about meditation?
To say the least. Yeah, I thought it was only for, people who live in a yurt or are really into, Cat Stevens and collect crystals and wear little finger symbols and make dream catchers and put them on the wall and use the word namaste without irony. It was, had every, I harbored every prejudice it is possible to harbor about meditation. And, I wasn't entirely wrong, to be honest with you. It has, for a long time, for too long, really, been practiced by this kind of strange little world. And it is now actually being spread out to, the rest of us, which is, I think, a very, very good thing. But I had to get over some of these misconceptions, and what really helped me was the science. In the last decade or so, there's been this explosion of scientific research, which really, just to be cautious and clear, is in its infancy still, but it suggests a really long and tantalizing list of health benefits, like lowering your blood pressure, boosting your immune system, and effectively rewiring key parts of your brain that have to do with stress and compassion and self-awareness. And so that's really what got me over the hump.
Tell me about the first time you actually sat down and said, right, I'm going to try meditating. What happened?
Oh, it sucked. It was a nightmare. I mean, the whole game of First of all, let me just step back for 1 second and clarify a few things. The word meditation is a bit like the word sports, or as you might say, sport. It describes a whole range of activities. Badminton and water polo don't have a lot in common. So there are a lot of kinds of meditation. But the kind of meditation I'm talking about when I say the word meditation is mindfulness meditation, which is a secular sort of simple and scientifically validated form of meditation. And it's, as I said, very simple. The whole thing is basically you close your eyes and try to focus on the feeling of your breath coming in and going out, and then every time your mind wanders, which it will, you know, a million times, to, you know, what am I going to have for lunch? Do I need a haircut? Why did I say that? Why did I say that dumb thing to my boss? You know, why did Dances with Wolves beat Goodfellas for Best Picture in 1991? Whatever. Yeah. Every time that happens, the whole game is just to notice your mind has wandered and to start over. So the first time I tried to meditate, I set an alarm for 5 minutes, and of course my mind went bonkers. You know, why am I doing this? This is so boring. This is so stupid. And then I would notice that it happened, and I would try to start again, but then I would be off. You know, I have an itch on my ass, and whatever. It was just over and over and over again, getting lost. And then when the bell rang, which, you know, at the end of the 5 minutes when the alarm went off on my phone, it felt like an eternity had passed. So I'm not going to say that I started to meditate and I, you know, I floated off into ineffable cosmic ooze and unutterable bliss. That didn't happen, and it's probably not going to happen for you. But you really have to think about this like exercise. If you go to the gym and it's easy for you, you're cheating. And this is exercise for your brain, and it is going to be hard. You're fighting a lifetime's habit of walking around in a fog of projection into the future and rumination about the past and fantasy about all sort of swirls around Mr. Important, and you're learning how to focus on what's happening right now, and that takes grit. And so the first time I did it, I realized how hard it was, and while I didn't like it, I developed a lot of respect for the practice, and decided I was going to stay with it.
Yeah. So talk me through your day. How often are you able to do your mindful meditation? Is it something that's always with you, or do you set aside time to do it?
That's a great question. So it's actually kind of a two-part thing. So I do it every day. I always hesitate to say this, but I do about 30 to 35 minutes a day. Now, the reason why I hesitate to say that is because I feel like people who hear that say, "Oh, well, that's too much. I can't do that. I'm done." I actually think 5 to 10 minutes is enough. It's just that I've been doing this for a long time, or a long time. I've been doing it for 5 or 6 years, and I wrote a whole stupid book about it, and so I'm kind of into it. But I think 5 to 10 minutes is enough to do the trick. And the other thing is, there are days, you know, my schedule is crazy, and there are days when I can't do 35 minutes of meditation. So, or like yesterday, I was incredibly tired. I had woken up at 3 in the morning to be on the morning show, and I didn't get a nap, and so I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it through 35 minutes. So I did 25 minutes. It's kind of like an accordion. So I do what I can, but I definitely try to do it every day, because there's a power to the dailiness of it. That daily collision with the voice in your head will help you fend off the shitty suggestions that is, you know, the job of the voice in your head. Your inner narrator is constantly telling you to eat the 18th cookie, to lose your temper when it's not in your best interest, to, you know, check your email in the middle of a conversation with another human being. And I think the daily collision with tumult in your head is really what allows you some percentage of the time to fend off those suggestions, to see the thoughts for what they are, just little quantum bursts of energy in your mind that don't necessarily have a concrete relationship with reality. So the other question you asked was, do I take it with me all the time? That is, I think, like and whether you meant to or not, that's where you're touching on the magic of this thing, because the point is to take it with you always, or to the best of your ability to take it with you always. So I try to create habits where I am, quote unquote, meditating or being mindful throughout the day. A couple of examples: between meetings, to the best of my ability, when I'm walking between meetings or walking from one thing to another, to the next thing during the course of my day, I try not to check my email and just actually walk and be aware that I'm walking. somebody walks into my office, I try to step away from my desk and actually pay attention to them. When I'm working on something like a book or an article, I try to shut down my email and just work on that one thing, because multitasking, as you will learn through meditation, is completely impossible and a lie that we tell ourselves all the time. So I think the magic of meditation really is once you sort of jump off the cushion, to use a term of art, a meditative term of art, and it starts infusing the rest of your life, and that is really a game changer.
You've had a phenomenal response to the book. How are your readers saying that it's helping them?
Well, the response to the book is you know, I just wanted to survive this, publishing it. I was freaking out. I mean, for all my talk about being a meditator, when I was getting ready to publish this book, I was anything but zen. I was losing my mind, because there's all this embarrassing stuff in there about drug use and about kind of being an asshole around the office, and I thought, you know, right toward the end, I was just worried that I was going to torpedo my career. I didn't expect the book to sell or that people would read it. So when that happened, it really blew my mind, and has been, I would say, the most important professional thing that's ever happened to me. That the book came out, and then I've started to hear from people who it's made a real difference for them. And I don't think it's the book that's made a difference for them. I think it's meditation that made a difference for them. All the book did. I mean, there are no original ideas in my book. I'm just taking other people's, including most prominently the Buddha's ideas, and adding the word fuck a lot. You know, like I'm just kind of making it fun and accessible, but it's other people's ideas. And what I found is that that people, I hear from people who started to meditate, and it's made a huge difference for them, and that is incredibly gratifying, and humbling. And I usually hate when people use the word humbling, like when you watch the Academy Awards, and I'm really picking on the Academy Awards today. I don't know why, but when you watch the Oscars and somebody gets up and is holding the Oscar and says, "This is humbling," I sort of feel like that's complete bullshit, because what's humbling about winning an Oscar? Nothing. But when I say that the publishing of the book and hearing from the readers has been humbling, I mean that actually quite literally, but because I realize that people don't care about my story, really. I mean, it's mildly titillating to hear about a news anchor who had a drug habit and melted down on television. Really what people want to know, though, because we're all the stars of our own movie, really what people want to know is, what do you have for me? Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel really confident, which is that this thing that I'm recommending, meditation, I'm increasingly confident that it is pretty much universally useful. And the process of publishing the book and then hearing from all these people has just made me feel even more confident about that.
That's great. What would you say to someone who's considering trying mindful meditation for the first time, just dipping their toe into it?
I would say great, and I would encourage you to do it. And I would say there are a bunch of ways to get the habit off the ground successfully. So I'm just going to throw out a bunch of ideas. One is to not put too much pressure on yourself to do too much right away. I set yourself a goal of doing 5 to 10 minutes a day. If you think that's too much, set yourself a goal of doing 2 minutes a day. But I do think the dailiness is the trick. Some people will recommend that you do it at the same time and in the same place every day. I think that's great if you can swing it, but if you have a schedule like mine where things are completely variable and up in the air, then give yourself a break and just do it when you can, where you can. I do it in my office. I've done it on airplanes. You can do it in the backseat of a taxi cab. It doesn't have to be some pristine environment with crystals and incense and statues of the Buddha everywhere. I think you can do it wherever. Life is messy. Just do it wherever you can. And I think it helps to find. I just have a couple of other concrete suggestions. I think it helps to find very clear, simple directions. So you can, if you Google mindfulness meditation, you'll find guided meditations and clear, simple directions all over the place. I believe Oxford has a center that teaches mindfulness, and I believe they have good instructions and guided meditations for free up on their website. I'll be a little bit self-promotional. If you want to go to my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/DanHarrisADC, there's a Getting Started tab, which just has the very simple explanation of how you do it, which really is super simple, and also links to free online guided meditations. And then one last recommendation, there is one app that I do recommend. I'm pretty careful about not recommending products for which you have to pay, but this one just costs a few dollars. It's called Headspace. It was founded by two Brits, most prominently a guy named Andy Puttycombe, who is a fantastic guy. He's very cool, and he knows how to juggle, and he's a former circus performer and a former Buddhist monk for 10 years. So he really knows what he's talking about, and he founded this app called Headspace, and I think it's great, and it really will guide you through the process of getting your meditation practice started.
That's really helpful tips. And last of all, Dan, I really hope that you've inspired people to try mindful meditation, because your story is amazing. The Yellow Kite readers are really into discovering new ways to live a fulfilling life and to cope in high-pressure environments. Are there other techniques that you've tried that work for you as well as mindful meditation? Are there other things that you do to keep sane?
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, as you can tell from the title of my book, 10% Happier, I don't think mindfulness meditation is a panacea. It's not going to solve all of your problems. What I think is it's something that we've written off for too long as either baloney, hippie nonsense, or impossible. I hear that all the time. Oh, I guess it sounds like a good idea, but you don't understand. My mind is too busy. I could never do it. I refer to that as the fallacy of uniqueness. The fact of the matter is, if a fidgety, skeptical newsman can do it, you definitely can. It just takes the grit to get lost, start again, get lost, start again. And every time you do that, by the way, that's a bicep curl for your brain, and it shows up on the brain scans. Anyway, the point I was trying to make was, it's just one arrow that should be added to your overall quiver of tools that you use, of weapons that you use to improve your happiness, well-being, and effectiveness. And so the other arrows are no-brainers. Get enough sleep. Eat well. Exercise. Focus on maintaining good relationships around the office, at home, and with your circle of friends. Take the meds that your doctor prescribes for you. These are all no-brainers, all things that we do and that if we don't do, we feel guilty about. And my argument is that meditation should just join the pantheon of no-brainers. So, you know, just to amplify some of those points, I really try to make sure that I eat well, exercise, and get enough sleep, because without those things, I'm a mess. And with them, I'm more effective. And I think that meditation is kind of like puts my effectiveness on steroids. It really helps me take advantage of the freshness and healthfulness I feel from doing all those other no-brainers.
Yeah. Dan, fantastic information and advice for our readers. Thank you so much for joining in with our online festival, and just thank you so much for joining us and for all this advice. It's been fantastic.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for publishing the book. And if anybody has any questions, you know, you can hit me on Twitter. I actually do try to answer people's questions one-on-one to the best of my ability. It's at Dan B. Harris. I know that's another like totally self-promotional thing to say, but if you do have questions, that's the best place to ask me, and I will try. I do my best to answer them. That's
brilliant. Thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.